My name's Brick and I'm an alcoholic. It's always good to know you weren't the real speaker. I'm sorry he couldn't be here tonight. If you have any problems with anything I say, go call him up. Anyway, a lot of times I explain my name just because it's a nickname, Brick, B-R-I-C-K. I was born with the nickname Bricky, B-R-I-C-K-Y, Bricky. All my friends called me Bricky. I was born with the name John, and then my dad called a friend of his up and said, yeah, you're naming your first child boy after John F. Kennedy. And for whatever political reasons, I don't know, I was too young at the time because I was just born, but Dad decided that John wasn't going to be my name. So anyway, my real name is Norman Bridgers Grantham III, and Bricky is what I've heard all my life until I got a little bit older. People dropped a while. But anyway, I am an alcoholic. I believe that everybody sort of has to get in touch with their own alcoholism. I was taught this from the very beginning. And I've heard there's different types of alcoholics, and are you born with it or do you earn it or what? And I firmly believe I was born an alcoholic. I believe my body just was a biological bloodstream waiting for alcohol to get into it, because I didn't have to struggle with liking it one bit. I will back up a little bit and say I do have a home group. It's the Johnson County group. We meet in Smithfield. We meet Tuesday night, not Monday night anymore. Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, Thursday night at 8 o'clock at the First Baptist Church in Smithfield. And then we have 2 more meetings at Whitley Memorial Methodist Church on Sunday at 9 a.m. and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. So please come. If you can check the directory and go on the website. I know some of y'all started using the apps, the little chair app, meeting chair app. If you don't know what I'm talking about, ask your GSR or home group member. That thing's nice. You just hit it wherever you are. It shows you the nearest meeting, nearest time. Thing's excellent. Anyway, I'll start off, in a general way. We told what happened, what we're like, and what we're like today, or what we're like now. I'm going to start a little bit in the middle, just because sometimes if there's something funny or something in my story, I certainly don't want anybody to think that I'm poking fun at the disease or the seriousness of getting sober. December the 29th, 1985 was my last white chip. Last drink was the day before. You can sort of imagine what Christmas was like then. If that was the 29th, the 25th, you know what I mean. It wasn't my first bad Christmas, wasn't my family's last bad Christmas, their last bad Christmas years before, because there was many of them until, actually when I stopped drinking, went to treatment, their Christmases improved dramatically after that. So did their life. I've heard we alcoholics affect at least 7 people's lives directly. And I can count more than that, really, that was that close to me. But I know my immediate family suffered quite a bit. They had to make a lot of decisions. In fact, my sister at one Christmas a couple of years before, she had to make a decision. My dad was going to fix her car. The paint was peeling off of it, and it was not due to a wreck. It wasn't an insurance issue, and so Dad was going to pay. And then I got arrested right before Christmas that year. I don't know what it was, several years before I got sober. And the choice was, do we get him out of jail and help him with a lawyer, or do you want your car painted? She made a decision to help me. There's always stuff like that with an alcoholic. We're always sort of in the way, and the other folks are kind of innocent bystanders. They suffer a lot, and anyway, that's part of my 8th and 9th step. I won't get all into that, but it was there for me, and the 8th and 9th step was there for them too, I guess, in a way. And I do have living amends that I believe I'm still making. And so I kind of continue to try to help those without harm. My mother's one of them. I can't pay her back all the money and all the stuff I did, but I sure will be around in her last days. Not that she's dying right now, but she is in her 80s, so, do the math. But I got it in my mind, not only do I owe it to her, but I want to help. Anyway, so let me get right into my last drunk, and then I'll tell you a little bit more before. I do skip around a little bit, but that's just my brain. And the 29th, I woke up in the woods behind my parents' house. And it wasn't too uncommon to wake up and not know where I was. But this time I was a little surprised because I thought I had killed myself. I didn't do it, I didn't grab a gun or anything, but I had heard somewhere that if you've been drinking a lot and you drink a fifth of liquor really, really quick, like in 15 minutes, it'll kill you. So that's what I tried to do. And, I got to drinking a fifth in 15 minutes. I got that part. The killing part didn't happen. But I did steal or take my mother's car, found the keys, wrecked 3 other cars, trying to get to Florida, somebody said, but I only made it about 2 blocks. And so that was 4 cars totally demolished in about 3 blocks, and the police chased me. I knew the woods behind the house, and they didn't bother to chase me. They said, we'll come out sooner or later. I didn't remember any of it. I walked up to the back door, knocked on the door, because my mom had the doors locked. My parents did. And she came and she said, you're not getting into the house this time. I knew this time she'd meant it. I'd heard it before, and I'd have to spend a couple of weeks not at home, but I'd talk my way in. You know how we get all pitiful and promise this and promise that. But I always meant it. I really meant I'm not going to ever drink again a lot of times, and I meant it. But anyway, this time I knew she was serious. I was walking to the store. I had around $5. For some reason, I remembered I had $6. I don't know why, because I remember debating on cigarettes and how much beer I could get with that. And then cigarettes weren't as expensive. Neither was beer. That was in '89. So I walked through a neighbor's yard that was a lady who worked for my father. Her husband was an alcoholic, very abusive. They'd been divorced for years, but he would come from Virginia every weekend or so and visit her and her 2 children. He had quit drinking. My dad said the lady that works for me's husband in the Coast Guard, been to treatment 17 times, has now really been a couple of years without drinking, and he wants to talk to you. Well, I heard this stuff before. Dad had told me before. I got a friend of mine, and he was a lay preacher. He came by the house, and he was chasing me around the table, going to lay hands on me. My dad was always telling me about somebody that could help me. Well, for some reason, I walked near the lady's yard and could look up the driveway, and there was this guy looking under the hood of his car. And I said, I wonder if that's that guy. I'd heard about him for a year or 2. It wasn't like the day before. I'd heard about him for a couple of years. And I went and I said, is your name Danny? And he said, are you Bricky? And I said, yes. He goes, well, I'm glad to meet you. He said, so how you doing? And I said, not very good. I remembered I had a big hole right here in my lip, and you could see my teeth. About a week before, something happened. I don't Anyway, I do remember before I blacked out, I was at a trailer, and someone said, don't go out that door. It was up in the air, and we're going to build steps. And the cinder blocks are all laying in a pile down there. I have a feeling I know what happened to my lip, but anyway, that's a whole other story. Let me get back to this one. So, I walked through the driveway and I'm talking to the guy, and he's looking under the hood. And I said, I need help. He says, are you willing to go to any lengths? You know, he put that. He'd been to AA, he'd been sober for 2 years, or just about. I said, yeah. He said, will you stay right here with me? I went, well, I got some things to do. Like, I got $6. I mean, I got plenty to do, you know. He said, well, you either stay with me. What do you need? I said, I need some cigarettes. He said, I'll give you some. And just stay right here. So I did. I stayed. And I was willing to, I was glad someone was helping me. I mean, I said, I'll do it, please, but just tell me what the heck to do. Because I can't do it. I've tried on my own so many times. Anyway, I stayed with him. He got me in. He called his uncle who lived in Smithfield. This guy, Danny, did not. He lived in Chesapeake, Virginia. He called his uncle who had been sober in AA about 10 years. And he knew of a treatment center in a little place called Day by Day in Selma. It's not there anymore. But so he got me there. There was a big help, and that was the beginning of my sober career, you might say. But he made me stay with him that night. He said, just stay. I don't think you can get in there till the next day. Yeah. Let's get it on. Okay. I think that was meant for me to speed up things a little bit. All right, so anyway. I got into the treatment facility, and I got a year under my belt, and I said, Dad, how do I get up with Danny? I want to write him a letter. I want to send him a card. I want to tell him I just got my year chip, or I'm getting it today. He goes, I want to hold off. Just let me check back with you. And I went, what? Turned out he had started back drinking again. Okay, now let me finish telling you about the two guys, and I'll tell you why I said it's kind of important. This was the guys that got me sober. Danny did not quit drinking again. He called his son up, who was at East Carolina. He had just turned 18. He said, son, I'm not going to be able to get my sobriety back again. I'm sorry. And he blew his brains out over the phone while his son was listening to him. All right, number two, the uncle, by the way, he started a charter boat business when he got out of the Coast Guard and didn't have time for meetings because he was too busy running his business. The other one, the uncle, who I knew had been sober at least 10 years, I remember hearing him saying, I don't go to AA anymore, but I'll take somebody to a treatment center any time of the night. And he would. He was the one guy I even called him. I said, what his name was, and I said, I know a guy who's got it, and he got it, but he just quit going to AA. He didn't have time for it or something. And he started back drinking. And he only had about this much liver left. The doctors had told him before. I mean, he was one of those that came to AA the first time about dead from his liver. And so he took, again? So he took like 2 bottles of Tylenol, and he knew that would end it, and it would not, and it did. They couldn't bring it back. But I got to remember, even the 2 folks that I looked up the most up to, they didn't make it, but I still got to. And so the big book talks about not putting so much trust in people. I mean, I love the guys to death, and it hurts me to think about it, but I'm just saying the truth is the truth about this awful, horrible disease we got. It takes no prisoners. It doesn't care how much somebody helps anybody, I just don't know. I hear people talk about, they used to say, like, going to meetings is like money in the bank, but I'll tell you, you can spend it right quick, too. If you don't keep going to meetings, or in my case. So, now I'll start from the beginning and I'll make it as quick as possible. I was born in 1960. I am 58 years old. My first drink, I was 5. I remembered it. The reason I remembered it was because I had a really bad cough. I remember my dad coming in the room, and I had been coughing like 2 or 3 days. I had the flu or something, and he gave me a spoonful of whiskey of some sort. I don't know what it was. And it made my face, I felt my face turn red. I coughed and choked off the spoonful. And my dad was laughing and he was watching, you know. I mean, he didn't have a problem with alcohol, neither did my mom, neither one of them. I drank more in one night than they drank probably their whole life. That's how much they didn't drink. But I remember after it was all over with, he said, "You like that?" I said, "Let me have another one. I promise I won't cough this time." He said, "Well, no." But I'm just saying, at age 5, my body had already said, "I'd need another one of those." As bad as it did to me, and I don't remember it in detail, I just remember he said, "Let me try it again. I promise I won't cough this time." You know, like he was laughing at me and I did it wrong. I don't know what it was. My body was ready. That's why I said, I'm one of these that was born an alcoholic. It doesn't matter to anyone else. It only matters to me. And it really doesn't matter that much how I got it. I just got it. But I know I've always had it. So anyway, when I was about 10, I went to my uncle's wedding. They had champagne, and these girls were like pushing these little metal, loud, rickety carts around, and there were some tables like this. And it was like a little get-together kind of set up like this with these kind of tables. Because I remember they took the tables around and they had a little dance. And that was it. That was the whole wedding, and everything was like in that one room. And so a lot of folks went outside or whatever, and I was 10, and nobody talked to me because I was 10, and they were all in their 30s and whatever, you know. So I usually, you know, was unnoticed, you know. So the carts, they were putting the glasses back on, and I went and drank a couple of them. And one of the girls there, ladies to me at that time, said, "Here's and poured me a little bit more." And then I drank a little bit more. And I just remembered I was like really in tune to drinking some more of that stuff. I didn't like get drunk and go flopping around, but I'm just saying, there was something about that thing. I had to have some more. And I remembered I went straight to the car. When we left, I think we went from Moorhead to Smithfield. It was about a 2-hour drive. And I slept the whole way home. But still, again, there it was. I had some, I had to have some more. I don't know why, but I had to. Well, as time went on, and I went on into school, and I had friends, and I had my sort of insecurities, and wanted to fit in here and there. But I got into a lot of trouble because drugs was a part of my trouble story too, and I'm not going to get into it. The sanctity of Alcoholics Anonymous and the primary purpose. But I filled my drinking time in betweens, you know, with something else, and ended up getting kicked out of school in Smithfield and was sent to a boys' boarding school up in Asheville. And you know where alcoholics are. It didn't take me long for me to make friends that did, and just like I wanted to do. Walk around, go, "Hey, where you from?" Blah, blah, blah. And it was a little bit scary because when you got there younger, the older guys already knew each other and they weren't talking to you. I mean, that's just the way it was. It was sort of a hierarchy of, like in the military, I guess. The longer you'd been there, the more seniority you had. And when you first got there, you were treated like a peon. And so we had to kind of stick together, you know, and look after each other, us peons. And even still, but to get to know one another, it was like, well, so what do you do like on Friday night? You know, just fishing around till I hit someone that said, you know, get beer. You know, that's what I was looking for. The first day I found my peoples, you know, that quick. And even at that age, I remembered being there going, I got to get this mess established. What do they do? How do they do it? Because we were kind of locked in, you know. But there's lots of woods around us and a couple of stores if you walk through the woods. But you had to find out who knew where and when and how and all this. And I'm sure folks who've been to prison know you do the exact same thing. You got to figure out the deals, the times, who's doing what, and who not to trust, and on and on and on. So it didn't take me long, and I was back at my drinking and all, but I did a little bit better in school. Well, I did a lot better in school. I found out now that I've gotten sober that I like a little structure, even if I put it on myself. It makes my days off feel better or something, or my time off. But still, I discovered the morning drink before I was a senior in high school. I don't know when it was, but anyway, I was a teenager when I discovered. We're not supposed to have alcohol in our room. You get kicked out for it or go before the council, which I did several times. But I said, oh my gosh, what did I do bringing beer in here? I knew better than that. You know, you dig holes in the ground, you know, put it in the back of the commodes, but not bring it in your room. I don't know. I was a blackout drinker, by the way. Nobody picked up on that. But anyway, and from the first times I could really drink, I blacked out a lot. But anyway, I said, darn, well, I got to throw this away. But it's full. So I drank it. You know, first thing in the morning, about 6:30 or 7 o'clock, having to get ready to go for our assembly and breakfast and all. And it cleared up my hangover. I mean, it cleared me right up. I thought, man, this is better. This is better than the one first. So I always remember that. So anytime after drinking, I just start drinking the next day. That's how I learned it. When I first got to AA, I sort of wanted to be a part of. I was only in my 20s when I got here, so I said, yeah, I found out when I had the shakes, you know, I just made that up. I really never had the shakes. I just found out that that by not wanting to throw away that beer and drinking it, I felt better. That was how I wasn't really trying to. But anyway, I worked trying to fit in AA just like I did. I had finally some people say, look, nobody cares how much you drink. You know, we're here for a common solution. So quit worrying about it. But now I did have a couple, guys were a lot older in the group that I started attending. And one or two guys said, well, I spilled more on my tie than you drank, you know, that kind of stuff. Anyway, if I chose to let that bother me, I found out today it's because I chose to let that bother me. But anyway, finally I actually came back with a comeback because one more guy did it. And I said, well, if you hadn't spilled so damn much, maybe you'd have gotten here a little bit earlier. Anyway. Then I ended up getting kicked out of that school. Then I finished up in Smithfield, and then I took a stab at college. By the time I got to college, I did not have a driver's license. I got my driver's license when I was 16, and I lost them when I was 17. I didn't see them again until I was 29. I was 4 years in Alcoholics Anonymous before I got my license back. So I only had my license when I was 30 years old. I only had my license for 2 years. I only had 2 years of experience at age 30, legal experience. From 16 to 17, and then from 29 to 30. I had gotten a total of 9 convictions of DWI, and 6 of those, well, it was DUI and DWI. There was a cross between the two. Some of y'all remember when, I can't remember. But DUI at first, and then DWI after that. And 6 were driving while license revoked, and 3 of those were driving while license permanently revoked. And by the grace of God, Alcoholics Anonymous, and being in the program 4 years, I got my license back. And I even had some help. I had to have some witnesses that were willing to go to some hearings for me. And there would be 2 or 3 undetermined times until at the last minute, meaning they'd have to take off work. And that's how they weeded people out real quick. If somebody was just going to go lie for you, they figured they wouldn't take off work to do it. Anyway, the people that helped me went both times and took off work at a very, like 2-3 days notice. But anyway, so when I got to college is when I experienced my first blackout and waking up in jail. Now, I'd been to jail, but I remembered it. But not that morning I woke up and didn't know where I was. Well, that wasn't unusual. I just had never woken up in jail because I had either sobered up or something when I had gotten arrested before. But this time, I was in a little concrete square room. It had a curb on it, just like on a road, and then it sloped down to a drain. And there was some old guy, there was a bunch of vomit around his head, and he was laying there, and I thought, okay, I think I'm at this school in South Carolina. Wofford was the name of the school. But anyway, I said, where is a basement in a dorm that looks like this? And now I know where the janitor hides. And of course, I wasn't at the school and it wasn't the janitor. Because I went to push on the door to get out and it wouldn't budge. There was a little window about this big with a bunch of wire and this thick glass on it. Oh man, I was in jail. So I sat in there about 3 or 4 days, or whenever. They put me in a regular population where we all had our bunks together, and then maybe I was there 2 nights or 3 nights, and then I marched out to court. I think it was on a Wednesday, and it got to me, and they said, looked at the bailiff and said, what's our next defendant here? He looked at me and looked at the bailiff. There's no paperwork. Nobody knew why I was there, and I sure didn't. And the judge said, well, do you know why you're here? I said, no. And the bailiff, he started getting really irritated with some of the deputies and said, you got a guy's name? Where's the paper? Who is it? What's it? Do you even know his name? And they were like, yeah. They had a little packet with my wallet in it, and they pulled it out with, oh yeah, that's Norman. You know. Anyway, he looked at me and said, do you have any idea why you're here? I said, no. And they said, well, give the guy back his stuff. He said, I'll tell you one thing. You see that door back there? You know, there's a courthouse like y'all were sitting there in the aisle and the door back there. He said, walk through those doors. But if I ever see you come back through the doors, I will find something. I said, yes, sir. So I walked out. And now I know when the waitresses are coming by my table and they don't want to stop, and you go, hey, excuse me, ma'am, and they keep walking. Well, I did that. I shut them off because just in case they said, hey, excuse me, we did find some paperwork. I wasn't here because I was going for the door. I said, so that was a waitress trick, I guess. So anyway, but I found out that I had started a lot of trouble on campus, and I was breaking some windows and some other stuff. And I was good friends with a couple of the folks that were security guards. And you know, we alcoholics are kind of like that. You know, people that can kind of, a lot of us know that let's be nice to those guys because we might need them. And sure enough, you know, I was friends with a couple of security guards. You know, I'd talk to them drunk a lot of times and it'd be okay. I mean, I wasn't all out of the way, but I did get to know them. And but this time they came out my pocket and said, sorry about what we had to do to you. And I was like, oh, that's okay. I don't know what you did anyway. But I do know the side of my face was really beat up kind of bad. And they said, you just went wild. It took 4 hours just to hold you down. You just went crazy. You're nice and calm for 1 second, and all of a sudden, wham! And all we need to do is tackle you and all this. And I was like, well, I'm sorry I caused all that, you know. I knew I was going to need them again, so I didn't. But, you know, just mess like that was always happening with me. And but I continued to drink. I kept thinking, man, if I could just figure out how not to black out, if I could get that part down, I'd be a step ahead of some folks. I remember a lot of times when I would do certain drugs, cocaine or any amphetamine, I could remember what I did. And I remember I'd be talking with people. You remember that guy last night about 3:30 in the morning when he said something? All I wanted to do is let everybody know that I remembered last night at 3:30. Seriously. I mean, and I know that's kind of a weird way to think or live, but that meant something to me, to be able to say, yeah, I remembered last night. like, see, I'm normal, you know. And because even to the folks that really weren't normal, I was really not normal as far as my drinking, you know, with my blacking out all the time. And I really had to stay away from liquor. Really, I just drank 2 big swallows or something. But anyway, I had a few more chances at school. My parents said, well, that's enough. And he said, well, we'll give you a choice. You can either do this or get a job and pay and cost this much to live here and this and that. And I said, you know what, people, as grown as I am, and being a man, I'll make my own decisions without somebody telling me what my choices are. So I took a little bag and a little knapsack, school knapsack-like thing, put some, like 2 or 3 pairs of underwear, and I think I only had $6 again at this time, and this was not yet, I had not gotten sober yet, this was still a few years ago. But I had a cousin that had run away when he was 15 and succeeded at it, staying away from home. He didn't go back home, back and forth, whining and crying. He left. He got a job down in Nags Head driving pilings, ended up running a pile driving crew. The guy that owned the pile driving crew had a fish house so he could work at night. And he paid rent on his own and bought a car and got a driver's license at age 15. Back then, I guess you could get a work license or something. Somebody helped him. I mean, he drank and did stuff, but he had a little bit more going on with himself. And so I found him. I knew where he was. I'd heard he lived down there. He'd written me a letter one time or two, and I had an address, so I knew it was in Juan Cheese, North Carolina. Anybody knows what that is? Between Manio and Nags Head, a little island. And it was named after 2 Indians, Chief Juan Cheese and Chief Manio, 2 different tribes. And then Nags Head is, the beach over there on the Outer Banks. So I left and I hitchhiked. It took me 2 days to get there from Smithfield. It's about a 3-hour drive, but it still took me 2 days. And with that little bit of money, I think I got to a little town called Wilson. And I got hooked up with some people with my $6, and I woke up in a school bus. And and there was like junk cars around, so I thought I had found me a junkyard. I went and I peed on the back of the back door and got back in the little bus seat, and they're not very big, and I'm not very tall, but still my feet were down. Anyway, a few hours later, whatever, it was cold too. The bus cranked up. I sat up like this, looking around, and I could see this big mirror flip down right there at the driver, and this girl's eyes were about this big looking in the mirror, and she looked back at me, and I was like, well, and I thought this was going to help me a little bit when I said, I'm sorry, I thought I was in a junkyard. That didn't impress her. I mean, that didn't help my excuse at all. And so I said, I'm sorry. So I started getting out of the bus, and she was just didn't know what to say. And I remember the one thing about that. I got down, I turned around, I said, which way are you going? She said, no. Oh, she just slammed the door. Anyway, I lived down in Juan Cheese, got it with my cousin. No one knew his name. His name was Matthew, or Matt. And they said, it sounds like you're talking about red. I said, he's got red hair. I said, it's got to be red. So within 24 hours, I found him. There weren't but so many fish houses, and there weren't but so many fish house owners that had a pile driving crew and a fish house. So I was able to get it together quick and waited. And the afternoon after work, they said, well, the pile driving crew comes in at 5:30, met there he was. So I lived with him for about a year and worked on the crew with him in the fish house. Then I started getting a job working offshore. I wanted to go out on boats. I love the water. So it was a great job because we had to go out. We were working on towers offshore, and they were some of them like 50 miles out. And if the weather was bad, we wouldn't go. But if we tried, we'd get $50. And the water's a lot rougher sometimes around Oregon Inlet than it is in other places along the coast, and we couldn't get out, we'd get $50 for trying. And so if I went, and it was $100 a day. So if I went out 2 days and tried one day, that was $250. I was good for about a week. That was all I needed. So it was perfect for an alcoholic like myself. My cousin had a girlfriend that was living, and we were all living in this big old house, and it looked like a Adams family house. You know, it was like crooked and only one shutter, and it was swinging, and a bunch of vines and all this kind of stuff, and a bunch of bedrooms. And so my cousin had rented it, and then would rent it out the other bedrooms, and he actually made a little bit off of it, more than he took in more than what the rent was. Rent wasn't very much because the house was really all to pieces. But she had a bicycle, his girlfriend, and so I borrowed it one day. And you know how we alcoholics are. If you borrow something for a while and they don't ask for it back, you know, after a while it's like, well, I'll just keep it till you ask for it back. And then it's, well, that was mine. I guess she doesn't want it anymore. Well, anyway. So I had a little incident. I had a flat tire. Got up one morning, needed to go, and I didn't know what to do. I couldn't fix it, couldn't take it anywhere. So I just thought about it. I said, well, I'm just going to cut the tire off and just ride it on the rim. I mean, I didn't have that. I had like a mile to go, but for beer, that wasn't that far, you know. So I rode that thing on just the rim on the front, and I could just feel the vibration and hear it all in my head. But I got there. I got the beer and I got back. And I said, well, you know, when I got back after I got the beer, well, that's not that bad. I mean, I would not get rid of the bike, you know, just because of that one. So I did it. After a while, I got used to it. I just got used to it being really slow. But I could do it. And then the back tire went out, so I just cut it off. And I got to where I could ride that thing several miles, and there's a couple of bars on the causeway. I don't think I ever rode it all the way into Nag's Head, but I still had to ride it 4 or 5 miles at least to get. I remember this one bar, I just threw it in the bushes, you know, and I'd wake up without the bike, and I went, daggone, I lost my bike. But got to the bar, obviously, where I had left it, and I remember one night it was like 2:30, and they were closing up, and I'd missed every ride, and nobody's going to give me one. And I looked and went, there's my bike! And of course it hadn't moved because nobody was going to steal it because it didn't have any. So I thought, well, that's better than a lock. You know, I don't have to remember the combination or anything. So anyway, I had another incident where my drinking was getting so bad that I was sleeping a lot in the day and staying awake at night, and my sleep patterns were really off, and I was having dreams. And I didn't know if they were real or if it was a dream. And I woke up that I had robbed the red and white store, and I went, daggone. Andy Griffith used to go in that red and white store, and so I just, because I remember seeing him one time. I didn't speak to him so much. Anyway, so I said, I got to go to the store, and when I walk in there, they're going to get me. And I said, well, I might as well. You know, it was one of these, I don't feel like running. I mean, where am I going to go anyway? And how long am I going to have on it? So I drove that loud bicycle all the way up to the store. And walked around, and I remembered, I said, how's it going? You know, the person went, fine. I saw somebody on the phone, and I was like, call them on the phone. But nobody did. So apparently it was just a dream. But I got to where I didn't know the difference between my dreams and reality sometimes. I remember, I don't know if it was this time or not, but I do remember one time I did get a 12-pack in the bottles. Heavy in the bag, paper bag back then. But anyway, and one thing about bicycle riding on rims is the painted lines, if they're the slightest bit wet, that bike's going one side or the other, not like you want it to go. And I was riding the bike back from the store with the 12-pack, and that thing it had been raining, and it hit the white or yellow line and just, went out fast. And it's really weird because, you know, I've noticed this too, and another time, when you see somebody fall, it goes beak, and it looks like it's over with in like not even a second. But when this happened, it was like, ooh, we need to talk about this for a minute. Things are going bad, and you got all this beer, and the bike's not under you anymore, so you're going down. You know, it's like I had some time to think real quick. So I did this. And I mean, I splattered my elbow. I mean, I looked in the mirror once at it, and I said, I seen too much of the inside of my arm. But I was so thankful not one beer broke. I mean, my mind, no, I mean, I'm serious. It was like my birthday. I was so happy thinking, you know, that I had won something. And never mind. And because I'd saved my beer. I'd saved all 12 of those beers. And it was, I was happy, joyous, and free. So anyway, I had to go patch it up, you know, and wrap some whatever. But you know, the idea that what was the most important was that I did not bust those beers way above my own elbow, you know. And I was serious about it. And when I was falling, I was serious about it. It didn't even switch over to never mind the beer. It was, you got a problem, and that beer is going to be, it's got to be saved no matter what you do. I can understand now, particularly with women, why they go save their children. I mean, it just comes in their mind whether they, because it came, and the point is that's how important that stuff was to me. That important, just like a child, I guess. Anyway, I'll start getting sober real quick. So I went to treatment, right, like I said in the beginning. Got out, and one thing the treatment center did, I don't remember a lot about classes and stuff. They made us go to a meeting almost every night, and I liked them. I met friends. Fortunately, I know a lot of guys that are in treatment here don't have this same experience. I was in treatment basically in the next town over from my hometown, so I could just continue on in the same place, you know, and I did, and I have ever since. And it's important to me too to stay involved, real important. I do service work. I did GSR several times. If you are sober and Alcoholics Anonymous, you start doing a little service work, you can just stay right there all you want to, because it's going to happen. You'll just have all you want to do. And I've never been sorry that I did it. A few times I was wishing I could do something else, and I skipped out on a few things. But nevertheless, all in all, service work has saved my life. Got assembly to go to next weekend, North Raleigh Hilton, with the Area 51, and our district is District 50. Johnson, Sampson, and Harnett County meetings are in District 50. I've got a sponsor, he's got a sponsor, and he told me one thing. He said, there's two things I want you to remember. Number one, this is when you have to get a new sponsor. If I drink, immediately, you got to get another sponsor. Number two, if I don't have a sponsor, you need to get you another sponsor. I said, okay. And he's still today, he's good about telling me that I'm having to switch sponsors. His sponsor actually has a lot of years of sobriety. He's in a nursing home near here now. And unfortunately, his name is Tom. Maybe some of you may have known, but been sober probably 61 years or so. But he had to switch. He said, I'm telling you, you know, we're not connecting anymore. And I go still to visit him, but he doesn't really know me, or really maybe not even his wife. But anyway, but he keeps me in touch with himself so that I know he's staying in touch, you know, and that I did the steps with his help. I've had to read the big book on my own several times to get what I needed to get out of it. I know a lot of people say you need to read this page and this is what you'll get out of it. Sometimes I go, I don't see it. But then I'll read something on my own and I'll get what I need to do, get what I need out of it. So I don't always take everybody's advice every time along the way, but I do know where to go, and I'll consider it now, you know. Because some things just don't feel right. I'll go, yeah, that's not exactly what's going on, you know. But thanks for putting me on that. I will, you know. But my sponsor and I are pretty close. He's always encouraged me to write. So let's write about it. Write down, just like the fourth step. Listen, you know, put it in the column if you want to. Who it is, it always ends up. Well, now I'm better at it, but at first I never saw my part in anything. And then a few incidences where he had to carry out the columns because I couldn't fill them in because I wasn't wrong. I didn't do anything until we talked about it. Sure enough. And to me, that's a lot of my 10th step is I've discovered I am wrong. And even when I'm not 100% wrong, but if I get that 20% out, then I feel 80% better. So looking at my part in things has been extremely helpful. And God, as I understand Him, I won't go into it specifically or address my religion, but I do have a real honest to goodness God that I talk to, that I pray to. I used to just pray to somebody or something. Now I really feel like I know who it is. And Alcoholics Anonymous gave me that power, greater than myself, that helps me solve my problem, just like the big book says the intent of the big book is. And I got that today, and I've got friends, and I've had ups and downs in my sobriety, but you know, it's not nearly as bad as it was. You know, my worst day sober really has never been as good as my best day drunk, because at least I'm not struggling on when I got to take my next drink. I mean, that to me, when I first got here, I thought that was all I needed. Please, I don't care, but I'll know how to handle the rest of my life. Just can you make it so I don't drink? And I thought that was my only problem. And I thought that would solve all my problems. Well, it helped, and that was a start. I found out I had a lot more. So that's why I continue coming to Alcoholics Anonymous, to keep working on my problems. I don't have nearly as many. I don't have the hang-ups as bad as I used to. I still got some that I guess I've hung on to, but then I've got some I can't even remember that way of thinking anymore. My resentful attitude is not nearly as bad as it used to be. I literally go weeks without one single bad, you know. But then sometimes I'll latch on to something for a few days, sometimes for a few minutes. But in the beginning, it was like months where it was like, listen, I don't want to drink, but just shoot me, please. Well, and I really felt that way. My early sobriety, I struggled mentally a whole lot, a lot. Didn't know what to do. I always worried about what somebody else was thinking, and then I get mad because I thought they were going to think that. So I go ahead and get mad with them just in case they did, and just, you know, my brain was always, I was just sort of twisted up. But today I have there's a calmness about it. I can sit. I enjoy life a lot now, and I'm running over, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.